Okay, so to those of you who've seen my other videos, you may notice this isn't the same bike I've been riding. I had a 2014 CB11 for almost 40,000 miles, totally trouble-free except for that last part where I crashed it. So insurance has come through and I found the next best thing, a newer one. So here's my 2017, almost brand new CB1100EX. So I did cross-shop a bunch of other retro bikes. Bonnevilles, T120s, the Street Twin R9T, Z900 RS, and the Moto Guzzi V-Twins. I was really close to also buying an Africa Twin, I know, where'd that come from, or a T120. But after so many good miles with my old CB, plus a good deal on this one, I'm back on a UJM. In this video, I'd like to talk briefly about some of the differences, both for the uninitiated and maybe somebody who had a previous model CB, maybe considering an EX. Just a quick review, the Honda CB1100's Honda's retro, standard, air-cooled UJM throwback to the older CB750s. It's a heavy bike. The old one weighed around 540 pounds wet, this one's even more. I believe the 17's about 560 pounds wet. Plus the fuel tank's a little bigger, up from 3.9 gallons to 4.4. Still gets about 45 to 55 miles a gallon, and the range is pretty decent with 4.4 gallons, but it's not a touring bike. The 17 still has 6 gears, just like the 14. The 13 had 5, but there are a few other differences which help make the EX feel like more of a deluxe bike than the outgoing models. ABS is standard now, where it was just a feature save for the rare DLX models on the prior model years. I mentioned the exhaust. They've taken some previously plastic parts and given aluminum ones in their place, like the chain guard and side covers. A lot of previously blacked out parts are now polished metal, polished aluminum or chrome. Chrome's everywhere, on the horns, the headlight bucket, the back of the dials. I wasn't sure I was going to be a fan at first, but it's grown on me very quickly. There is a slightly updated suspension. It's not that different. It's noticeably firmer, but don't expect a revolution. It's not compromising the comfort level, but I guess it's slightly better. There's wire spoke wheels with inner tube tires. Sort of completes the retro look. There's new font on the gauges, which I'm honestly not too into. There are metal covers on the gauges, which is a nice touch. LED lighting front and rear. LED headlight. LED tail light. Kind of nice, but the turn signals are still incandescents, and they're massive. There's a slipper assist clutch. Kind of helps lighten the already light clutch pull. Otherwise, it's something kind of seen on more sporty bikes. Not really sure why they threw it on here, but it's nice. Honda got some flack for how smooth and characterless the previous engine was, so they messed with the cam timings a little bit, and it grumbles a little bit more. It's burblier. It's kind of nice. I like it. New bike feels a little bit more responsive. Not sure if it's just because it's a much newer bike, more free-flowing exhaust, or what, but it feels good. It certainly does not feel heavier than the outgoing bike. That center of gravity is still pretty low, so it's a pretty nimble bike. I'm not too worried about the extra weight they claim, and like I said, catless exhaust kind of helps. I do love the extra fuel capacity. That was one of my main gripes with the last one, although so was weight. The extra fuel capacity is nice, though. I appreciate it. A little less range anxiety and a little longer in between having to fill up. Speaking of longer intervals, I noticed Honda has changed the oil change interval. They've doubled both the oil change and oil filter replacement intervals from 4,000 miles, which I thought was incredibly conservative, to 8,000 and 16,000 for the filter replacements. I'm just going to do them every 8. It's a very simple bike to work on. I know a lot of people are cross-shopping these, especially with the T120s. I'd say I love Triumph Twins. The sound, the feel. It's just a unique experience, and they're cool. A lot of people in LA have those. Not many people have the CB1100. I was really close to buying one. They're really similar power-wise, very comparable, not really much worth talking about. It's just a slightly different feeling. A little more torque, a little less horsepower, but it kind of evens out. The real reason I ended up with the CB over the T120, other than price, is probably, I had already done about 40,000 miles of maintenance on the CB. I did it all myself. It's easy. I was always happy with how it was put together. Everything makes sense. They use sensible fasteners, normal socket sizes on everything, and it's all right there. You have access to the spark plugs very easily. I mean, the air filter is kind of a pain in the butt, but it's a lot better than a fared bike, I would expect. I was just always very happy to own it, and it seems like the engineers put a lot of thought into the person who's going to be actually working on the bike, except for the valve adjustment intervals. But frankly, I just kind of ignored those. They were always in spec when I checked, and it's not a big deal. Certainly better than Ducati's service schedule. My point is, both bikes would be great to own, but I already know the Honda is great to own. I don't have to assume. Service intervals are about the same between the T120 and the CB, but again, I mean, when it comes down to Honda reliability versus the Triumph, If you can get the T120 cheaper though, go for it. Great bikes. I really liked them. I like the idea of having stability control, because that probably would have helped me keep my 14 alive. USB socket's a nice touch. They're neat little bikes. If you're cross-shopping this with a 14 or a 13, one of the older models, it's pretty simple. It's going to come down to price. This is a better bike. It's more premium in a lot of different ways, but it's much more expensive. So see what you can get. They're both kind of rare. You get tons of bike for the money with the older models, and it's really hard to pass those up. If you're going to do any kind of modifications, if you're going to be replacing parts, it might be better to just get the older one. The engine is roughly the same. I think this is a great bike for new riders, advanced riders. It doesn't really matter. You can't go wrong with the CB1100, but all of the bikes in this segment are really good. So if the design speaks to you and you've got the funds, go for it. Whatever you do ride safe. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll try to respond to everyone.